The relationship between the United States and Iran has long been fraught with tension. Deep mistrust and animosity define their interactions. The specter of conflict has loomed for decades. In recent years, this shadow has grown darker. The U.S. accuses Iran of sponsoring terrorism and pursuing nuclear ambitions. Iran in turn condemns American imperialism and interference in the Middle East. The situation is a powder keg. Any spark could ignite a devastating war. The 2015 nuclear deal offered a glimmer of hope. However, the Trump administration's withdrawal from the agreement in 2018 reignited tensions. The U.S. reimposed crippling sanctions on Iran. In response, Iran gradually stepped back from its commitments under the deal. The situation escalated further in 2025 with a series of incidents in the Persian Gulf. Houthi rebels, allegedly backed by Iran, launched attacks on U.S. allied shipping. The U.S. responded with airstrikes against Houthi targets in Yemen. The risk of miscalculation is high. Both sides are locked in a dangerous game of brinkmanship. The world watches with bated breath. The U.S. has deployed a significant military presence in the region. Aircraft carriers, fighter jets, and troops stand ready. Iran has vowed a swift and devastating response to any attack. The country possesses a formidable arsenal of ballistic missiles. It could target U.S. bases in the Middle East and disrupt vital shipping lanes. The consequences of a full-blown conflict would be catastrophic. The hypothetical U.S. attack on Iran begins with a series of targeted airstrikes. These strikes focus on Iranian nuclear facilities. The U.S. claims these facilities are part of a clandestine weapons program. Cruise missiles and stealth bombers penetrate Iranian airspace. Explosions rock the desert night. The world holds its breath, waiting for Iran's response. Iran's reaction is swift and decisive. Ballistic missiles roar into the sky. They target U.S. military bases in Qatar, Bahrain, and Saudi Arabia. The attacks cause significant damage and casualties. Iran also unleashes its asymmetric warfare capabilities. Small, fast boats harass and attack commercial shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. Oil tankers erupt in flames, sending shockwaves through the global economy. The U.S. responds with additional airstrikes. They target Iranian missile launch sites and military infrastructure. Cyber attacks cripple Iranian communications and critical infrastructure. The conflict escalates rapidly. Both sides are drawn deeper into the abyss. The initial strikes are just the opening salvos in a wider war. The conflict quickly engulfs the entire Middle East. Iran activates its network of proxies and allies. Hezbollah in Lebanon rains rockets down on Israel. Shiite militias in Iraq target U.S. forces and interests. The region descends into chaos. Israel, facing a barrage of rocket fire, launches retaliatory strikes against Hezbollah targets in Lebanon. The conflict threatens to spiral out of control. Saudi Arabia, fearing Iranian aggression, mobilizes its forces. The United Arab Emirates and other Gulf states are drawn into the conflict. The Middle East becomes a tinderbox of conflicting interests and simmering rivalries. The humanitarian cost of the conflict is staggering. Millions are displaced from their homes. Refugees flee the fighting, seeking safety in neighboring countries. Hospitals and civilian infrastructure are overwhelmed. The international community struggles to respond to the growing crisis. Section 4. A global economy in crisis, oil and uncertainty. The impact of the conflict reverberates far beyond the Middle East. The Strait of Hormuz, a vital shipping lane for global oil supplies, is effectively closed. Oil prices skyrocket. Panic buying grips global markets. The world economy teeters on the brink of recession. The U.S. and its allies impose even harsher sanctions on Iran. They target Iranian oil exports and financial institutions. Iran retaliates with cyber attacks on Western banks and corporations. Global trade is disrupted. Supply chains break down. The conflict highlights the interconnectedness of the global economy. Businesses struggle to cope with the uncertainty. Consumers face rising prices and shortages of essential goods. The conflict fuels inflation and economic instability worldwide. The war becomes a lose-lose situation for everyone involved. Section 5. Scars of conflict, long-term consequences, and a new world order. The conflict drags on for months, with no clear victor in sight. The human and economic toll mounts with each passing day. The Middle East is left in ruins, scarred by violence and instability. The U.S., bogged down in another protracted conflict, sees its global standing diminish. Its credibility as a superpower is tarnished. Iran, though battered and bruised, emerges from the conflict defiant. Its hardliners, emboldened by the war, tighten their grip on power. The conflict reshapes the geopolitical landscape. China and Russia, capitalizing on American weakness, assert themselves on the world stage. The post-World War II order, already under strain, collapses. A new era of global instability and uncertainty begins.